So in this segment, I'll be exploring the idea of old and new, the idea of tradition and modernity, the idea of discontinuity and continuity, or how in visual art there is a constant change. There is nothing that really is stagnant or which is going to last for a long time. The idea of tradition is not static. So you can always go back to a traditional painting, pick up something from there, and in the process you have a conversation, a dialogue with the other artists who was from some other time, some other place, and so on. So in that sense, the old and new is not a fixed position in visual art. Historically, yes, but as a creative artist, you tend to have a constant dialogue between the earlier artists, between another artist from your own time or from another historical time, and thereby there is a constant churning around. There is a constant shift in the way the images are perceived, or the language is constantly being shifted further and further into new areas. At times it can settle down into a mannerism, in the sense there are some artists who decide that this is my area of expertise or this is my style, and they will try to work within that. There are other artists who are constantly experimenting, trying to find new areas of developing their work. So in that sense, there are many different approaches artists take. But one thing is very sure, that art is always in a flux. There is no settled position there. So in this segment, I'll be talking about how artists from today are having a conversation with the past, and thereby it's a dialogue, it is a give and take. And when a contemporary artist changes the earlier image or transforms it, you not only look at the present day image or present day artist's image in a different way, you also start looking at the old image in a new way. So there are new readings that become possible because of the conversation. A work by Sudarshan Shetty. See, when we say language, the language is a system that has been built over a period of time. It is like memory, but it's a memory of the society. Over a period of time, the conventions of how one has to speak, what makes a good sentence, what is the right word, and so on, have been established. Same happens in visual art. And when we say tradition, tradition is also not so static. Tradition was, again, over a period of time, it's like a memory bank which is there, and then you accept some parts of it, and you can also reject some part of it. And if you start digging deeper and deeper, you realize tradition is not a monolith kind of system. It is something that keeps changing. For example, there is a painting in traditional painting in the Mysore traditional painting section in the museum. It's a Yashoda Krishna painting, but you will see that the artist has used French Louis sofa on which the Krishna and his mother is sitting. And in the back side you will see a clock which is from some other country, because he was seeing them, he was seeing those examples around him. So it has become a traditional painting, but it is not so static. So there is a constant shifting and movement even in traditional painting. And once you start seeing that, you will be able to be alive to what is happening in those systems. Now, Sudarshan Shetty has made this, it's almost like a metaphor for how the idea of a tradition can be conceived. It is made of small pieces which is taken from somewhere else and then reused and rearranged. We saw this image of René Magritte in another segment, where in the moment of kissing, there is a certain amount of secrecy that is still there, or there is an unknowable factor in that relationship. So this artist William Cobbing has done a performance video it becomes even much more evocative because of the material that is used. So it's like a slugfest between two people where it's not an intimate act, but it is something of like a blame game. And so there's a small shift in the image, and thereby the meaning got extended or altered and modified. This is the Rembrandt painting, and this artist uses an earlier painting and then try to wrap it up in a different way, as though it is being wrapped in a plastic sheet. So there is one layer of already existing image, on that you overlay another set of images, and thereby you start looking at it in a very fresh manner. We saw the tent of Tracy Emin, where she has named all the lovers she had, and how the very personal experience was made into a public or exhibited in a public domain. This is one of her another work where her entire bed was displayed in the gallery as a work of art, as a proposal of a work of art, as if each of those cigarette butts and then alcohol bottles and so on speaks a story of how her personal life is going on, and it became like a display of that very private life. And then the moment you put up something in a museum, again the roles change. It is no more a personal object, it becomes an artwork, it is something, there is an aura around that, you can't go and touch and so on. So these two artists, again I have spoken about them before, they went on the bed and then they defiled that status of artwork that is given to them, given to that particular bed, because it is displayed in the museum. So this constant movement between a private object, and then you give a art status, move it to a museum, and then it becomes something else, and then that can also be retrieved back and then brought back to an ordinary position. This is the original painting by David of Napoleon Bonaparte. The artist Kehinde, he reimagines himself as being the protagonist of that, because between Europe and Africa, the power relationship was of one of unequal power relation, and they were being enslaved and exploited. So he used the same image, same kind of position and all, but there is a different kind of story being narrated here. This is Monet, was an impressionist. Impressionists were interested in capturing that one moment of light that is passing through, which will not be there in the next moment. So they were not interested in painting the physical aspect of the landscape or the still life they saw, but they were interested in capturing the light quality or the momentary nature of that light which is fleeting through. So they made very quick paintings, and sometimes they also made, in the same spot they will sit for many hours, and each hour or so they would make a different painting because the light was shifting. So they were interested in light and that the kind of changing aspects of light. So Vic Muniz has adopted or kind of had a conversation with that, and now he has made the kind of painting of the Monet's haystack, but he makes them like pixelated image by using a collage technique. This is another painting where the entire painting is very, very photorealistic, and then he takes up another painting from another artist and then he treats it in a very different way, and in the process he alters the way we look at both the earlier artist as well as the kind of readings that Vic Muniz brings into it. Normally we see people doing a landscape, right? Like Jacob or Constable, they studied the landscape and they study how the clouds are being formed. It can also be Van Gogh, who kind of imagined the cloud as a wave of energy going around, but still both of them are static. They won't change like how a cloud would change its shape and keeps moving and then it vanishes. Like Vikmunis went in an aeroplane and then he has drawn the cloud in the sky. So just imagine, instead of drawing the sky on your paper, you go into the sky and then create a drawing of the cloud. So it's a very different kind of, very mischievous kind of approach, but it is also very bold. This artist Milde, he has figured out a way of creating an actual cloud in a very small scale way, and then he creates those clouds in galleries, in museums, in railway stations and so on, and those clouds are there for some time and then they, like any other cloud, they evaporate. So it's a very different approach to looking at landscape or bringing an element of landscape into the artwork. And they also are emphasizing the ephemeral quality of the natural phenomenon. People like K.G. Subramaniam, they are having a conversation with another tradition. Like there is a terracotta making tradition in Rajasthan called Molela. So K.G. Subramaniam studies those tradition and then he adopts the making technique of Molela into his terracotta works. Or he studies the reverse glass painting from Tanjore and then he adopts that technique in his work. So this is also a kind of conversation where you are not taking the content or the image, but you are taking a traditional, a making aspect of the tradition. Ghulam Muhammad Sheikh studied miniature very intensely and then he starts adopting the kind of visual language that miniatures speak. The flatness, the non-perspective kind of treatment, or the kind of color composition, or the way the entire space is segmented into multiple divisions and then you start putting different images in each one. So all this comes from the language of miniature. Then that is the kind of dialogue that Sheikh is having with an earlier tradition. Vasudev, he also paints, but he adopts the technique of the embossing technique which is seen in the temples. On the temple doors, you will see metal, beaten metal relief works that are displayed in South Indian temples. So he is using that technique and then he creates his own work, or he is also using the weaving technique. He collaborates with weavers and then creates that work. So if one is trying to have a conversation with an earlier tradition or an earlier artist, it can be about medium, it can be about content, or it can be about a certain way the artist is using the language in a unique way. Surendran Nair brings a reference to the exotic nature of the Indian sadhus and saints, the levitation, and all the other imaginations we have about the saints and sadhus, and then he starts making very humorous kind of imagery around that understanding. So you will see there is a sadhu here and there is also a shoe there. So immediately you are in two different kind of times. There's some part of it which is from another time, another tradition, and then this sadhu is also wearing a socks. So you don't know what to do with that kind of contradictory coming together of detailing. Shiva Prasad is an artist from Karnataka. He traveled extensively. He has studied the folklore artists and folk art. He meets them and then he uses that knowledge and those images of leather puppets or wooden sculptures in his painting, along with another image from another time. This is Dali's Jesus Christ. So he combines them and thereby there is a dialogue between different cultures here. This is the image of Chinnamasta Devi, where the blood that sprouts leads to many other lives, and Santosh adopts that, but in a slightly different way. and this is a king or a powerful person sitting on the horse, and there is also this timer which is going on, as if there is something going to explode, something very important is going to happen when those timer starts coming to the right number. And because it is constantly moving, it also brings in a sense of anxiety. We start making the connection with all the Hollywood movies where the bomb is ticking and then you are trying to repair it. So all the connection starts seeping into that. We saw some works of Manjunath Kamath earlier, the way he remolds the traditional images into new forms, and thereby talks about how a traditional memory or traditional image is created in fragments, and how we reconstruct memory or the memory of history. And the way he does it is very magical almost, because they come together very nicely, but also there are many, many smaller fragments in it which you can recognize as fragments. This is the Vishwarupa that he has created. Normally Vishwarupa image is seen as one person with multiple hands, one image of God. But here it is made up of hundreds of small images coming together. So in that sense he breaks down the image but also brings them together, because of the proximity you can start making the connection between them. Francis Bacon has taken the Velázquez painting and then he reinterprets that. But in the interpretation of Bacon, it becomes even more horrific, it is more terrifying, it is more disturbing. All of you are familiar with the painting of Last Supper. Vivek Vilasini changes the very fundamental image we have of Last Supper. We know Last Supper in relation to Jesus Christ, or the way those images are presented. He brings them to the Kerala dressing. So we start looking at the Last Supper in very different way now after seeing the Vivek Vilasini's take on that. He has also done a reinterpretation of, so this is an animal, but if you go closer there are many human figures which are forming that horse. This is made in metal. So it's a similar concept but contemporized and then readopted. Artists not only bring in elements from the tradition, but they also bring elements from visual expressions around them. So Jean Dubuffet and Basquiat, they look at wall paintings or protest slogans, and they adopt them. They also adopt the kind of language, the scratching, the marking, and all the visual details that this graffiti speaks, and they make it part of their own work. Manisha and Amrita and Rabinder Singh are two sisters who work together. So they use the language of miniature. And in Manisha's work here, this is actually a pizza, but it can also be seen as something that is not from this world. So the way it is proposed and the kind of detailing that is built around that. And this Singh sisters painting is about the 1984 Golden Temple, when the army had to enter and we will see Indira Gandhi's image there, and she is on a tank, and the kind of bloodshed that happened. So the theme is very contemporary, but it is being narrated in a miniature style, or a miniature language is being used, and you will see many of the characters who are involved in that struggle. This is Shantamani's work. It's called Wave, and she relates to the Hokusai wave painting we saw in another segment. And for her, this wave is also like a tsunami wave, which is also, she also tries to bring in the ecological kind of issues into her work. and she also imagines as if the floor of the gallery is lifting up and then becoming a wave. Again, once you see this work of Shantamani, whenever you think of this, you will also think of Hokusai. So you can't separate them once you have seen that connection. This is Manet's work. It was the execution which happened, and then Yi Minjun picks up that image, and then he talks about the Tiananmen Square massacre, and then this red wall, which is very different here. So he again keeps the reference of the wall there, but here it is a wall of the Chinese palace. And the ironical thing here is everybody is laughing. The people who are going to get killed, people who are going to execute them, and the observer. So in that sense, there is a comment that it is like an absurd drama is happening here. But somebody who is staying in China, which is very sensorial, he has to adopt a language of this kind of ironical image making. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult for him. These kind of still lifes were painted in Europe around 15th, 16th century, and they were displayed in the owner's house to show that that person was wealthy. If somebody could eat a lot of fruits and a lot of meat and very rich food, then it became a symbol of aristocracy, symbol of power and wealth, and they were very realistically painted. It was as if you could go and touch them. That kind of treatment was given. And then Sam Taylor Wood, she has created a video. I'll just open that video. There is this constant creation and destruction that is going on. You take a sheet of white paper and then you start drawing, you're actually destroying the whiteness. Or as you're drawing or as you're continuing the painting, you erase some part and then build up something else. Or you take inspiration somewhere else, partially you erase that and then build something on its own. So this movement between destroying something and creating new is a constant, a cyclical movement in art. I like this image because the kind of insight it brings to us. Normally, we tend to run away from looking at death face to face. If anything is a little rotten, we throw it away. But if you start seeing it more keenly, the kind of insight it can give you is amazing. She has done one more video where the apples are kept and then the apples are rotting and then all the microbes come out from that. So you compare that to the kind of still lifes that we do in art school, because we are just looking at it as a not a living thing. It is not moving. A life study class, the model will move a little bit, and then we are very uncomfortable because your drawing is going wrong, and the apple doesn't move. That is the only kind of criteria we have. And if you start looking at it as a living thing, then you have to look more and more deeper into that. So this is the kind of insight that this artwork has given me. So in that sense, it's a very beautiful work for me. It may not be about a flower which is blooming and very colorful and all that. The kind of insight it can bring you is amazing. So some of this other work which I'm going to show now is also about the cyclical nature of power or the loss of power. This is Appajaya's work, where he has used holy ash, that is what we call vibhuti, and this sword is put in that. So little by little, the sword starts rusting, you lose power, and then you become more and more human in that sense, and then in the end, the death will catch you. But that is not the end. That is the kind of insight that Sam Taylor Wood's video gives me. This is also a very interesting work in that sense. There is sand here which is moving, and then as this is Tallur's work, and then as the sand moves, the image of Krishna, preaching Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna keeps covering, and then it is also uncovered from time to time. And then we saw another work where next to the beach there are many sculptures which are covered and then uncovered. So this is the kind of insight that the artist can bring you about how to perceive what is happening around us. Another work by Tallur. This is the Nataraja Shiva. Nataraja Shiva is the epitome of creation. From his dance, the life cycle is created, but here that is caught in the cement block, and there are coins embedded in that. But if you look at from another angle, it may be a nest from which the next life will come out. And very close to that, you have the Alok Bal work, who also speaks a very similar language where the clock is frozen and there is no movement of life. This is one of my most favorite work, which I had seen many years ago in New York. This is a sand pit, and in the sand pit, this dial moves. One side is cleaning up and the other side is making lines, and it constantly keeps moving. And for me, it's a very philosophical kind of work, which is telling you so much about not just a little bit of movement there, but this constant shifting between creation and destruction, or death and life, renewal and loss. So all these connections can start coming through that one work. To end the talk, I would like to make this statement. Socrates has said, unexamined life is not worth living. It means you have to really analyze, and then, so I say the unexamined image is not worth seeing. So if you're not really analyzing the image and then looking at it, it is not worth. And I hope you really enjoyed it, and you'll be able to see images and artworks in a very different way after going through these talks. If you have enjoyed watching this video, please press like button. To see more such videos, subscribe to our channel. Thank you.